Welcome back to my channel. My name's Caitlin, but as an artist, I'm known as Feral. This video is a continuation of my previous one, where I started a whole bunch of new canvases and how that works as an intuitive artist. Today, I show you the next steps in my chaotic process and why I highly encourage you to learn to love hating your art.
I hate how this painting's going. I hate it. I hate it.
Okay, so let's go back a little bit to the start of this painting. Well, okay, not quite. Watch my previous video to see me actually block in the sketch for this painting that you see here, and to learn more about my process of starting pieces as an intuitive artist. So in this video, I wanted to document the next steps in my painting process. As a self-described intuitive artist, little elements of my process are constantly changing. However, I do notice certain patterns that seem to crop up regularly. One of these patterns is something that arises from the way that I start a painting. As I mentioned in my previous video, most of the time I don't make a drawing for a painting before I start. Often on my canvas pieces, I just go straight in with a central motif in mind, usually some kind of face or figure, and I sketch it straight on the canvas. But before I do that, I will usually do a very free and expressive abstract layer, just to get rid of the white of the canvas. And also just for fun, because it's just about the most free and joyful way to paint ever. But sometimes, like in the last video, the canvas is still white when I go in to lay down the bare bones of the piece. This way of painting seems to work well for me. It means I don't have to wait around until I have a fully formed idea or concept, because I know that that will flesh itself out over time. That's part of why I call myself an intuitive artist, because I don't tend to know what my paintings will turn out like. When I start, I might have an idea of the other elements I might add to the piece, but it often takes a complete 180-degree turn and goes in a completely different direction as I work. I'm not afraid to paint over things, layer, remove, and add elements. In fact, I think it only adds to the texture and depth of the final piece. If not in a literal way, but a figurative way too. With the piece in this video, I knew that I didn't like the sketch I'd made. I didn't like the idea. It was way too cluttered. Like, what was I thinking with all of that? There was also something about the face I wasn't really happy about either, but it was mainly, there was too many elements. I had the face, the cat face, the mushrooms coming out of her eyes, which were going to be like little cat head shaped mushrooms, and then it was even adding mushrooms below into her hair and the piece. It was way too much, and I knew that. But I didn't know what else I wanted to paint. I had no inspiration in that moment. So I knew it was either push on and just start, even if I was starting something that I was 99% sure I was going to hate, or paint over the sketch and come up with something else, which I knew would just have me wasting time looking for inspiration and reference photos, when I know that I'm so much more likely to progress if I just start. I'm kind of like the human proof of Newton's first law of motion. So in the video, you'll have seen that I started working on that initial sketch, but I knew I was probably going to end up changing the elements in the painting, which I did. So the mushroom eyes cat theme, whatever was going on with that, which was too much. I think maybe there's a good idea in that jumbled mess somewhere that I might come back to, but in this painting, in this time, it was too much. But I changed elements, so I'd started working on that, but I knew I was going to change some elements, so she's ended up with a flower on her head. And a lot of this was due to me wanting to practice and learn how to paint flowers more. So sometimes that's how I come up with things to add to paintings. It might not necessarily be like an idea to do with a concept, but it will be like something I want to learn how to paint more. So it's kind of like I'm doing, like I get to do a study within a painting, but it's more interesting to me than just doing a study. I find I don't want to do studies, like I want to do a proper piece. I think I spent years, you know, just doing little drawings and studies in my sketchbook and stuff, and now I want to do proper pieces. But anyway, I will sometimes create paintings or come up with concepts based on things that I want to learn to paint. So this painting is going in that direction. That's why I've added in this flower, and it's taken this new turn into a completely new concept. But here's the kicker. Even though I've changed this piece and it's going in a new direction, I still really don't like it.
However, I've thought about it this morning and I'm just going to push through. I was going to just paint over it and start again, and sometimes I do that. Sometimes I do that with paintings that are way further along than this one and that I actually kind of like, but I just decide to paint over. But this one, it's annoying the shit out of me, but I think I need to stick with it and give it a little bit more time. I haven't given it enough time. I think one of the main reasons why I'm really hating it is because I never paint flowers. I'm not good at them. I don't know how to paint them. So this is kind of telling me that I need to learn to paint flowers. Cheers. And let's go on another iced coffee fueled painting session, shall we? Oh, do you like my new rug and my new little setup? I don't know if you can tell the difference, but you probably can't. I need to fix this situation, but I need to find a way to fix them. Or maybe I'll make like one of those little mushroom portal mirrors out of this thing. Perhaps. But I got a cute little rug from Kmart. I moved things around. So this is my easel that I use painting on the floor, and it was over there. Now it's over here, and I've got like, you know, it's like a cute little setup. I think it's cute. Anyway. Oh, alright. Time to tackle you, you bastard.
Learn to expect that you're going to hate some pieces at certain stages. I like to sort of imagine it like maybe I'm in space. I'm in this black void and it's just darkness. and the only thing I can see is like this little step in front of me, and there's like a little void of space, but there's a step, and I have to take a little leap of faith, a little skip from the step I'm on to the next step. And I take that little step in faith. I don't know where I'm going. I can't see where I'm going, but I know I'm making progress if I just keep moving. Learn to see it all with a sense of humor and lightheartedness. The more you do it, the more you can't take it to heart so seriously, because you know that right after you feel these very intense negative feelings toward an artwork, you're likely going to sit down and fix it and end up loving the piece again. Learning this cycle and leaning into it with joy only comes from experience. So keep sitting down at your canvas and keep messing things up. I highly encourage it. So I thought I'd mention a little on how I approach painting the flower. So from that first layer of just going in haphazardly without a plan and seeing how bad that turned out for me, I decided that I needed to actually deliberately sketch in the flower petals and then render them individually with more care. As I don't paint flowers, I knew I needed to simplify the process for myself a bit. So I did that by simplifying my reference a little. I definitely picked a way too complicated reference photo to begin with. I just loved the glowy lighting of it and somehow wanted to evoke that. But I knew even as I picked it that I was biting off more than I could chew. So I sketched the flower, trying not to get too confused and bogged down with the petal placement, especially towards the center of the flower where it gets a little bit more sort of clustered. Then I worked pretty fast on each petal to make sure I could blend enough before the paint dried. My first pass over the flower was to get the darkest and most vibrant colors down. And then going in again, which you'll see in a few moments, I started adding the lighter color as I decided I wanted the outside of the petals to be really saturated and vibrant, and I wanted the inside of them to be more pastel and white. But I still wanted there to be a quite bright base even underneath that pastel layer. I haven't finished the flower yet, but I'll be going in with even more opaque white. So I always mix my white throughout my painting with other colors to lower the value just a touch. And I do this until the very end layer. So I have at the end a really true white highlight left to make things really pop. I'll also be adding a glaze to the flower to increase the shadows and maybe experiment with glazing some other colors on the petals too. I'm not too sure. We'll see what happens. So make sure you check out the next video for all of that.
Kind of a cool look, but I do go over and add proper highlights, but I just thought that was interesting. I will see you next time. Bye.
another thing that I wanted to say about this painting in particular is the mouth. And even though it was exactly how I want these studies to be, very loose and focused on brushstroke and direction and shape. So yeah, overall very happy with this one.
So I may have been just a tad dramatic, just like a little bit, because now that I've painted the flower in, like the first layer on the flower, I don't hate this piece. In fact, my mood has totally changed and I'm kind of excited about it now. This happens to me a lot, so I'm just kind of sharing the reality of my process and the fickle nature of my brain. Honestly, I feel such relief now because I'm not going to scrap the piece, I am going to stick with it. And it's just funny to me how literally half an hour, maybe not even half an hour, literally like 20 minutes of painting can change my whole mood and my whole outlook on a piece. So I'm still not happy with a lot, like there's so much to do on this painting, but I'm glad that I've stuck with it and I'm rendering in the flower. I really like a lot of paintings that have flowers in them that are very kind of expressive. They're quite realistic, but they're still quite expressive. Like the person who's painted them hasn't like sketched in like a sketch for the flower. They just go in with like a brush and they, you know, each petal is made from brush strokes, not so much drawing in the flower and then painting it in. That takes a lot of skill and that takes a lot of practice. And I don't know why I was thinking that like, yeah, I'll be able to do this. Like, not that it's easy, but I'm just like, yeah, I'll just slap some colors on there and it'll look fine. Like, it's not gonna look amazing, but it's gonna look okay enough. But I hated it. I wasn't in the right mindset. I can tell sometimes. This is all about, you know, being an intuitive artist is also like, you're listening to your own inner feelings when you're creating and kind of like working with them. Like if I'm more impatient, I know I'm not going to be able to sit down and paint something that I don't really paint much, like a flower, yet I was still trying to do that. So I knew it wasn't working out and I knew why it wasn't working out, but I was just trying to fight myself. And that's funny because I do that sometimes. And I just know when I'm doing it that I'm wasting time and I just need to calm down, reassess, step away and I just need to relax. But that's not my forte, unfortunately. I think I'm going to do another layer on the flower and then I'm going to go into the face, because once I've sort of got the flower and the face coming along a little bit better to how I like them, I think I'm going to feel even more positive about this piece. Yeah. Another gigantic iced coffee. And we're ready to go.